It's beginning to look a lot like Christmess, the new film from Australian writer-director Heath Davis. The film opens today around New Zealand, and here is co-star Hanna to tell us about this low-budget, high-reaching holiday tale. Congratulations on the new film. I think it's just been kind of released, hasn't it?
Oh, thank you. Yes, it premiered in Australia last week.
Did you attend a premiere?
I did. There was one in Sydney, so went to that, which was awesome.
And was the whole cast there, directors? What kind of event was it?
Yes, it was the director, Heath, and Darren Gilshannon, who's another cast member. The other kind of main cast member is in Perth and couldn't make it.
That would be
so
Steve,
we did.
Correct?
Yes. So we did. There were like 3 sessions. We did kind of Q&As afterwards, which was awesome.
And what kind of questions did folks have about the film?
A lot of it was kind of the origin of the story, right. And then I think, a lot of it too, because it was on, such a small budget. How did this get made?
Right.
Because it feels in some ways miraculous when projects like this can get off the ground with not a lot of cash behind it.
Right.
And then also, I guess because for me, I've never acted before. Just talking about how that even came about. But yeah, it's really beautiful because the story is like quite a heartwarming Australian kind of story. I think a lot of the feelings around it was like it's just a nice time of like celebration and community, which was really nice.
So do you look at yourself mainly as a musician rather than an actor? I assume your work with the middle kids.
Yes, I think it was like a wonderful experience for me, and I felt very grateful to have a crack, and I really loved being a part of it. But I feel like I don't know, I could maybe act some more, but I definitely, it's still very kind of a strange world to me.
Gotcha. So how did you get roped into this thing?
Well, Heath was a fan of the band.
Oh, good.
And when he wrote the story, he kind of said that he just had always had me in mind when writing my character. And I guess in a lot of ways it was helpful to be quite similar to the character in terms of like an acting debut. It wasn't like I was having to totally try and be someone else, because the actor, the role, Joy, the character, is actually a musician in the film as well. So so it was kind of cool. He reached out, and honestly at first I was like, what is this? I didn't know Heath, and he said, oh, I've got a script, can I send it over? And I was like, I mean, I guess. And then when I read the script, I was like, oh, this is a really beautiful story. And so then I kind of thought, well, I'll just keep saying yes until something happens that either I have to say no, like a scheduling conflict with touring, because we tour a lot, or if I didn't feel comfortable with something, or if I don't know. But it just kind of, as the wheels turn, I just kind of kept saying yes and felt good about it. And then it got pushed back quite a lot because of COVID and all these kind of things. But I think I probably couldn't have done if it wasn't for COVID, because I wouldn't have had the time probably.
Gotcha. Yeah. So once you were on board and you made up your mind that this was a going concern, what did Heath say to you? What did you say to him about your character? Obviously it does feel autobiographical, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think we barely rehearsed before filming, and I think that's kind of his style. He doesn't like to, I think he worries it can get stale. And so I think that once we said yes, a lot of it was just like my thinking was, if I could just make sure I had all the content and the lines, and then go in and being very open to direction. So then it's like I don't have to worry about like what I'm saying, like that's already ingested, and then I can kind of free myself up so I'm not thinking about that, but then to more how I'm like responding to what's going on. But I definitely, like, I was very much carried by Steve and Darren, particularly just, they're such seasoned amazing actors that they definitely carried me through this, and I was very fortunate to be able to kind of just use their energy and kind of go along with what they were doing. And I feel like once I started, I could kind of get into the flow of it. And it's funny, even like watching it, I watched it for the first time last week. Like I can see my progression in terms of the way that I feel more comfortable even by the end of the film, because a lot of my shots were quite chronological. So yeah, I think it was a big like faith exercise in a lot of ways, in Heath and me and Heath, and yeah, I just kind of just had to give it a go, basically.
Give it a go. There you go.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It feels like there. Did you go off script much? Was there much improvisation between the three of you?
The Steve and Darren did a lot of improvisation, and kind of like not even necessarily like while the camera was rolling, but when we would start workshopping the scenes every day,
right,
they would often be like, I think there's a way I could say this differently that feels more natural, and they were amazing at just be kind of like working the script. And Heath is amazing of just like also giving the actors liberty to do that. Yep. I didn't do it that much because I didn't feel
right.
Well, everything was so new. I was just clinging to that script, and just trying to get my lines. Every now and then though, Steve or Darren would be like, I reckon you could say that differently. Like, and they would be like, what's a way we could do that? And they would like help me. And it's just really interesting, like watching the movie. I feel like some of the best moments are actually when particularly Steve and Darren would kind of like mold and work with the script. So that was like very cool thing to watch. It was like, I found it to be quite brilliant.
And you sing a few songs throughout the film. Was that originally part of the script and part of why you were brought in, or did you kind of add that yourself?
It was there from the beginning. And even in the script, there were two songs particularly alluded just to be like that my character was going to play these songs. And then Heath was like, if you could just write the two songs. And then, which actually that felt like a lot more chill and relaxed for me to do that than do anything else. So I was like, sure.
Right.
And then as we were filming, he was like, any chance you could sing another song at the end? So I ended up writing another song on set, which I just kind of sang right at the end. But I think that it was, that the singing and the songs were almost like a nice in for me, like a way for me to kind of get in that felt really natural and easy. That kind of took the edge off a little bit of like this new world. So it was kind of cool to have that there as a part of my role.
Right. So with all that has happened coming out the other side of it, it seems like it was a very positive experience for you. Has it changed the way you look at yourself as an artist or what you do now?
I think so, actually. I feel I found like making this movie was so different in terms of like making music and making a record. But what I did find, there are some true similarities that I felt were very meaningful to me. Like I love, when groups of people come together around a story and creativity, which is true for film and music. And I think like that experience for me of like being on set, with all these people who you have this experience and you go on this journey on, like, I think that is so profound. And that's the same, when you go on tour or when you make a record. And I feel like that was a very positive experience for me. Like I love making things with people and I love like bringing stories to life with people. So that felt like a real privilege. But I will also say, yeah, like I think it's really stretched me. I think being like, it's particularly I'm an indie musician. Indie musicians are often like just a little bit like more introverted, not so sure of ourselves half the time. So like acting is not really, it's not that kind of energy. Same, maybe like, if you have like a singer, like a pop singer or or musicals. Like there's just like a lot more crossover there, I think, for like in that kind of like confident extroverted energy. And so I think me stepping into the acting world was like very other to me. Like I've never thought about acting. I've never felt like, as a kid, like I never did anything like that. So I felt it was a very like stretching time for me in a good way, like of kind of calling me to be brave and to try something and get outside of myself a bit. So, and I just think, then out of that, creativity begets creativity. And I feel like thankful as an artist to have, been in a really kind of highly creative, productive space, because I definitely feel like, that has like, given me a lot.
Yep. Now, I've seen the film, obviously, but the folks who are watching this probably haven't. So I'm wondering if you want to briefly give an idea of what the story is, and tell me if the story resonates with you in any particular personal way, because I don't know you personally either. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely does. Like, the story centers around this character, Chris, who is fresh out of rehab, and he used to be a successful actor, and addiction really like kind of gobbled him up, and it's kind of watching him trying to like go back into the world and connect and make a go of it, and that actually being really difficult, and all centered around Christmas time, and which can be a difficult time for a lot of people, but definitely like addicts. And then kind of his story, like particularly based around these two relationships in a halfway house, his sponsor and then Joy, who was my character, and they kind of like end up having a strange, beautiful family vibe, which I think is like a really it felt like that very beautiful Australian spirit of kind of trying to make something good out of hard times, and it being a bit bumbly and messy, but trying to give it a go. And I relate to it a lot. Like, I think, I've struggled with addiction, and, I think I know so much of like, just from my personal journey of like the struggle to like move through and heal, and then also like the, almost like the resistance to even doing that, to like not feeling like you can do it. And watching him kind of Chris, the character, kind of go on that journey was like deeply meaningful to me, and how you can still like make beautiful things and connections in really hard places. And that's the thing I love most about that story, is like even though it doesn't even necessarily have the ending that you hope Chris would have,
right,
it doesn't feel like it's finite. It's not his story hasn't ended, but you can see that along the way of that story there's still these moments that are meaningful and true regardless.
Do you know if the ending was at any time up in the air? It could have gone one way or another, or was it always that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've only ever heard it as that.
Okay.
And in some ways it wouldn't surprise me if it's always been that, knowing Heath and knowing kind of the way he makes stories. But yeah, I don't know.
All right. Now, the most important question is, have you ever boiled water using an iron?
I haven't, but I definitely was intrigued by this.
Same here. It's like, oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. That's good.
So you can learn something from anything.
Exactly.
Now, and your band also has a new single out called Bend, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And you have a video that was shot in Austin, and I believe you were pregnant at the time. So that's something to talk about as well. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the song and the experience of making that?
Yeah, sure. Well, the cool thing I actually wrote that song when I was filming Christmas. I was like staying in a hotel, on set. I was away from my son. I was right after I was finishing the movie. I was flying out to England to make the record, and I just like felt like I was in this like, kind of intense place. And I just remember one night after a long day of filming, just this song pouring out all kind of in one go, which was like kind of cool. So we didn't even like plan for it to be released on the same day as the movie, but it's kind of cool just personally for me, like having that movie and then that song kind of being on that journey together. But yeah, I literally made that film clip like 3 weeks ago. I'm like heavily pregnant now, so that was
I didn't want to ask where you were in that.
yeah. So yeah, it was kind of cool, like just how that all came together. But yeah, there's definitely like even some like crossover themes in that song as the movie too, which is kind of cool.
And why was it shot in Austin?
I just happened to be over in America a couple weeks ago, and you know, we go there a lot for work, and some of my best friends, because I used to live in America too, so they were in Austin. They're filmmakers, and you know, I was just like, any chance you're around, we could just like film something, and they just gathered all their friends and we just made it just in a day. It was really fun.
They were called the Potter Sisters. Is that who shot it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
cool.
that was really special because I've known them for a long time and they're awesome.
And give me a brief overview of the album, what to expect when that comes out next year.
Yeah, well, it's coming out in February. It's called Faith Crisis Part 1. It's, I guess, you know, a lot of it is content of a faith crisis that I have. But you know, also like bigger than that, you know, because I think it's not just my story. It's a lot of our, you know, all three of us in my band are very in this record, and how like, you know, kind of seeing universally that all of us go through mini faith crises all the time. I guess we can have different names for them, but just like that journey of like something you believe in, and then like you have an experience that all of a sudden does not align with what you thought was true, and you're having to reckon with that, and kind of these little micro, you know, crises that we have in life, and kind of the journey that we go on to have to respond and build and live life. And yeah, so I think it's like it's you know, pretty similar, like it's our third record, Middle Kids, you know, but I think we've just kind of pushed a little further in terms of like some of the sonic, you know, spaces that we're going into and the emotional spaces. But yeah, we're really proud of this record and very thankful to have been able to make it.
Have you ever played in New Zealand?
We have a long time ago. We played at Laneway in Auckland.
Oh, Laneway. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I must have been there, but I don't remember. It's
yeah. And then we had crazy luck. You know, I think it was just before COVID, and then we had some shows lined up, and then we had to cancel them. So it's been a while, but we're hoping to come back for this album cycle next year.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, we'd love to have you. Now, I'm wondering, having made this movie, and it's called Christmess, and Christmas is just around the corner, do you think it's going to change the way you celebrate the holiday this year?
That's funny. I don't know, actually. Like, I think, you know, you go back into old family spaces or whatever at Christmas, and I think that I do probably think it makes me feel a little bit more grateful for, or wanting to be more grateful for, like, even, you know, just like every family's got their dysfunction, but like to also be able to just be like, this is my family and that's just what this is, and being able to like try and just enjoy the good bits, you know.
Enjoy the good bits. Oh, okay. I can live with that.
Yeah.
Very good. All righty. And so new acting jobs on the horizon? Have you been hit with a bunch of offers since the movie has been released?
Well, I mean, it came out a few days ago, so no, but Heath has written another movie, another script I've been reading, but I'm not sure, you know, like it'll just be one of those things. I'll see, you know, I got so much, we tour so much, so I don't really know how I would do both, but you never know.
All right. Well, these days you can do both. I mean, it used to
be true.
You had to choose one or the other, and you know, even Mick Jagger, you know, when he made Performance, it was like, what's he doing making a movie? He's a Rolling Stone, you know.
Yeah.
Now nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's all.
That's
it's
actually.
all art.
It's true. It's true.
Very good. All righty. Well, thank you for spending time with me, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you with the band when you come around.
Yeah, love it. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.